one of the things that I would say to your listeners is this. If you're going to take the time to go independent, to be an independent advisor, why would you go with a broker-dealer that isn't? You know, in the industry, 8 of the top 10 broker-dealers either have their allegiance upstream to a board of directors, public shareholders, or to private equity. And I always think it's interesting when advisors talk about going independent, but when they affiliate with firms that, they may be paying their advisors as 1099s, but their loyalty, their allegiance, the decisions that they have to make are based on upstream decisions rather than downstream.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the podcast today. As you know, Bridgemark Strategies has helped thousands of financial advisors objectively explore their options on the broker-dealer and the RIA marketplace to find the right firm for them. And an advisor reached out to me the other day who did a little bit of exploring on their own and was really, truly in analysis paralysis mode. He started exploring just one independent broker-dealer by himself, and by the end of the week, was presented 5 different ways that he could affiliate. And while this new optionality in the industry is fantastic for advisors, going at it alone can be really, really stressful. And one of the options was partnering with an OSJ or a branch inside of a broker-dealer. So the advisor called me really confused and said, Corey, why would I affiliate with an OSJ inside of a broker-dealer instead of just starting my own office? And I figured there's no one better to answer that question than Greg Raines. He's the CEO of the largest OSJ or branch office inside of Cambridge and is one of the largest in the industry as a whole as well. In today's conversation, we're going to discuss what an OSJ actually is, should you consider leveraging one, and why Tag Advisors is a true differentiator in the marketplace, serving over 400 financial advisors. Greg, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast today. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Corey. I'm not sure I can live up to that introduction, but we're gonna give it a go.
I think you can. There's no doubt. If you don't mind just telling the audience a little bit about yourself and how Tag Advisors came to be. You've built something really, really awesome, and I think they'd love to hear the story.
Great. Well, I started in the business October of '83. Got in on the insurance side. Gradually added the security side of the business to the insurance side. Pretty quickly, I gravitated, once I was on the insurance side, from working retail with clients to running a life brokerage operation. And I just found that fit very well for me. I am extremely independent and I believe very entrepreneurial. And there was something about working with other people like me that was very attractive to me. While I was comfortable working with clients, I liked working with other professionals better. And honestly, Corey, I've spent probably the better part of 20 years trying to figure out, candidly and honestly, the average advisor makes a lot more than the average OSJ. But there was something very appealing to me about working with other professionals. And as closely as I've been able to figure it out, the reason that it appealed to me was being independent and being entrepreneurial. I like the idea of working with people who had the same DNA that I did. As we all know in the industry, a lot of our clients don't have a good ratio between risk and reward. They want the reward, but they don't want the risk. And what I find with advisors and the average independent is they understand that if they don't go out and get it done, it's not going to get done. If they don't kill it, they're not going to eat. And that understanding of risk and reward has been very appealing to me through the years. And I think it's worked well for us as an organization. Today, we have 400 advisors. We're 100 million in GDC. To your point, I think we're one of the top in the industry. We're the largest within Cambridge. And to the best of my knowledge, we're the largest of any privately held broker-dealer in the space. So it's been a good run for us. I've been fortunate through the years to have and work with a really good team. And that has allowed me, as we have grown, to focus more and more on what I do well, delegating to others who do what they do well. And certainly it's contributed to our success. Working with Jason Stone, who runs our oversight and supervision team, and April Booth, who runs our operations area. So it's been a good run. I would say, to your point though, Corey, when we started building our branch, we started at scratch. I mean, literally my first complete year as a broker-dealer branch as an OSJ, halfway through the year, we had done 37,500 in GDC.
Yeah.
37,500 in GDC. And by the end of the year, we were at 155. The next year we did 310. The next year we did 630. By 2004, we were doing right at 5.3 million in GDC, and we were the largest in that broker dealer at the time, which was Tower Square Securities. And, you know, we've grown from there to where we are today. I'll add parenthetically that when we joined Cambridge in 2011, we were at 10.3 million. You know, we can pick up that component of the story later, but it's been a good run. We've been very fortunate.
Yeah, I mean, to grow from 10 million in trailing 12 production your first day at Cambridge to, you know, over 100 million in revenue, there's obviously some immense value that you're providing to financial advisors to grow that quickly over a little bit more than a decade. So that question in the beginning of the podcast, that in my opener, when the advisor said, you know, why would I affiliate with an OSJ inside of a broker dealer versus, you know, just going directly on my own? You need to understand, Greg, that's on this podcast, there's independent financial advisors considering change.
Sure.
And there's also, you know, wirehouse and employee advisors considering
Yep.
change, where there's been so much bureaucracy and there's
Yep.
been so much, you know, friction in the way of them doing their business the way that they want to, that sometimes they're just a little hesitant
Yep.
in terms of having another layer in between
Yep.
them and their broker dealer. So, you know, how would you answer that question? Why join an OSJ?
Yeah, I literally answer the question every week, and you know, you'll find, Corey, I tend to answer some of the questions in a circuitous fashion, but you know, that's one that I handle all of the time. And what I would say in simple terms is, first of all, large OSJs like ours today are filling the space left behind by regional broker dealers. Almost all of those have been rolled up to larger broker dealers. And what large OSJs bring today, like ours, is culture, camaraderie, and essentially a concierge service. So the large broker dealers in the IBD space have gotten large because they have to be institutional to survive. Cambridge, as a broker dealer, has roughly 4,000 advisors today. But the average advisor understands, or they should understand intuitively, that as these organizations, be it Cetera, Osaic, Cambridge, Kestra, Commonwealth, LPL, you name the list, as they've gotten larger and larger and more institutional, it's more and more important to work with an organization that brings culture, brings community. We have relationships. I very seldom look at production numbers, but I looked at a production sheet this morning for the first time in months and saw a name on there. And I told the team that production isn't right for that advisor. You know, I knew the advisor by name. I had a good sense of how much production they did, and I immediately recognized that it was inaccurate. So that community, and look, at the end of the day, this is still a relationship business. Certainly advisors have those relationships with their clients, and they would like to have those relationships with the people that they're doing business with upstream. And it's increasingly more and more difficult for that to be the case as these large broker dealers are becoming institutional. And so a key component of what we bring is that relationship, that ombudsman, that concierge experience, and that culture. And, you know, it's self-serving, but I'm a strong believer in it. And this is completely coincidental, but I will tell you honestly, maybe twice a year, 3 times at most. I have a monthly call with the CEO of Cambridge, so we have an opportunity to interface on a regular basis for the benefit of the advisors whose interests we serve. But yesterday morning, I sent the CEO a text and said, I need 5 minutes. And she was calling me unannounced at 1 o'clock. I think the average $1 million advisor has to ask, if I've got an issue that's mission critical, that's a 10 on a 10 scale, what are the chances I'm going to be able to get this in front of somebody that has the authority, the sway, the influence, and the responsibility in order to get things done? So when we need to, for the benefit of our advisors, we can get to the people, at 100 million, they still take my calls.
Yeah, for sure.
And, to me, that influence and that ability to get directly to the source is invaluable. And, there's still some $1 million advisors that think it should be the way it was 20 years ago. But I think most are realistic about the fact that they are better off joining with a team that together gives them the influence and the relationship they need to function successfully.
Yeah, and I mean, so many financial advisors that I speak to, they desperately want, that small broker dealer feel. They want the direct line to leadership. They don't want to be, just a rep number. They want to feel like something, a community bigger than themselves. But at the same time, they also want, the pricing, the tools, the technology, the capabilities, of a big broker dealer. So in my opinion, it's a great way to be part of a big university, get all the benefits of that, but, be part of a small fraternity or sorority inside of that where you get, all the tools and resources of a big firm, but the community of a small firm. And I think advisors find a lot of value in that. And I don't think a lot of financial advisors, when they're doing due diligence, they know that that exists. I think they, look at an LPL or they look at a Cambridge or they look at a Commonwealth or whatever it is, and they do the due diligence and they see those tools and resources and they feel like that's it. When in fact, a lot more can be layered on top of that to give you the feel that you're looking for.
Yeah, within our organization, we have subcomponents. We have Tag Invest, where we've got 2 CFAs that help our advisors build portfolios. We've got Tag Protect for fixed insurance. We have an advisor. I haven't seen the final number yet, but we have an advisor that just placed a premium finance case that I think was about $800,000 in commission. It just hit my radar screen literally this morning. So we've got Tag Invest, again, with CFAs, Tag Protect for fixed insurance, Tag Assist, which is virtual support for advisors who want administrative support on a virtual basis. We've got Tag Retire qualified plan area that helps our advisors with the roughly 1,800, 2,000 plans that are resident within our group. We have continued to layer on, in addition to all the resources that you get directly with Cambridge, which are substantial, you get an additional layer, what I call an amplified, you described it well, but an amplified layer of support that winds up being, in my view, very beneficial for advisors. And the thing I would say, Corey, is, people say, well, how did you do it? And to me, it's been pretty simple. I have spent the last 25 years trying to build a branch that if I were an advisor, I would want to be a part of. And it's intriguing to me because there are times when I see peers and I think, you're asking from your advisors things that you would never agree to. So, if you wouldn't buy it, how do you wind up selling it? But I would buy what we're putting in the window, and I think it's certainly contributed to our success.
That's great. So what's the catch? I mean, I think a lot of financial advice.
There is none. You literally, I was just thinking, I need to make sure everyone understands that what we do almost universally on a revenue neutral basis. I have had recruiters refer people to me to talk about the OSJ value. And when they get off the call with me, they will say, and I've had it dozens of times through the years, where the advisor will say, why would I not do this? I know I didn't want to talk, but why wouldn't I have what am I missing? To your point, Corey, what's the catch? And there is none. For us, it's revenue neutral. We're getting paid based on our volume. We're not taking money out of our advisors' pockets. And it just winds up being an amplified value that to me is pretty compelling.
So same autonomy, same ownership, same
Trading
payout,
under,
just elevated.
yep. You're getting your same payout. You're trading under your name. I like to say we're not greedy. We don't have big egos. We're not going to try to get in your pocket. We're going to make our money based on what we've built in the aggregate. And to me, it really is truly a win-win situation.
Yeah, and I've really seen it that way myself over my career as well. I'd say over 50% of financial advisors that I've helped explore independence, if not more, have chose to, leverage an OSJ inside of an independent broker dealer versus going out and just doing it all on their own. So, I mean, the numbers don't lie there either.
And you use the word independent broker dealer, and Corey, you and I have spent a little bit of time talking, but you haven't gotten the benefit of certainly all of the perceptions I have. One of the things that I would say to your listeners is this: if you're going to take the time to go independent, to be an independent advisor, why would you go with a broker dealer that isn't? In the industry, 8 of the top 10 broker dealers either have their allegiance upstream to a board of directors, public shareholders, or to private equity. And I always think it's interesting when advisors talk about going independent, but when they affiliate with firms that, they may be paying their advisors as 1099s, but their loyalty, their allegiance, the decisions that they have to make are based on upstream decisions rather than downstream. And certainly within the top 10, there are only 2 that are privately held. And it's why, Corey, we chose Cambridge in August of 2011. At that time, we had an offer. Now, your listeners are going to think, well, that's just because you were a terrible negotiator. It was because we knew what we wanted. But at that time, we moved 10.3 million in GDC to Cambridge, and we took 6% to join Cambridge at that time. We had an offer on the table from a firm that's still, a player in the business. We had an offer at that time that started at 30 and wound up at 35. So just taking 30%, as an organization, we left 2 million on the table to join Cambridge, because they were an independent broker dealer. They did control their own destiny. We felt like it was the most likely scenario where we would not have to be concerned about a roll-up, a acquisition, a change in the business platform, and knock on wood, it served us very well.
That says a lot for sure. And just going back to the 6% and the 30%, that's almost laughable today, because I remember when I was the recruiter at LPL like 6 years ago, for a blue chip recruit like yourself, we could have maybe offered 35%. And now that's just the absolute floor, with deals up to 100% of trailing 12 production with some firms. It's just crazy how quickly the industry is changing from that standpoint.
And I gave you a heads up as we think and talk about the industry. It's very, very interesting to me, not only in our space, but what I would say to your listeners is, when you look at what's going on in pro golf, do you want Live Tour or do you want PGA? Because if you want Live Tour, you can find the money somewhere within the industry right now. But is that going to be the best overall experience that you're going to want to live with for the next 8-10 years? And I don't find any fault with it. If John Rahm wants to do a deal, I don't know where they wound up, but if he wants to do a deal for 300 million, it's his life. If that's what he wants, then so be it. But at the end of the day, in his heart of hearts, is that going to be the best long-term play for him in terms of his professional satisfaction? And I would say that, I would say the same thing. Certainly, we could shop our deal if we wanted to as an organization, but, you know, am I going to be able to get the CEO on the line for 5 minutes? You know, on a 2-3 hour notice? We're very fortunate with where we are, and we're pleased with the experience. And on a 10-point scale, I would say that we're probably, as an OSJ, you know, we probably add 1.2 to, maybe in our advisors' minds, 2 points on a 10-point scale over and above what the broker dealers bringing to the table from a qualitative standpoint. You add 1.2 to 2 points to an overall rating that already is pretty high. It can be a pretty meaningful proposition.
Absolutely.
And our persistency underscores that. You know, we added in 2023, I think 57 advisors, and you know, we lost some registered admins, but in terms of meaningful advisors, I don't think we lost 10.
That's fantastic. And as a disclaimer, now you have my listeners thinking I could get them $300 million. I probably cannot do that.
Say that again.
I can't get them that live money. I can't get them $300 million. So I just wanted to set that straight. I'm just kidding, but yeah, I mean, I've truly seen the value of OSJs over the years, from a growth standpoint, from a customer service standpoint, and that sense of community. I just think it's important to raise the awareness out there that, you know, these things exist, and you have the ability to outsource a lot of the things that you don't want to do. A group like yours is going to be much more agile than a bigger broker dealer to help with whatever, whether it's, and I don't know if you do this, but taking down office space, or maybe building out a W-2 model for someone that doesn't want to pay for health insurance, or, you know, whatever it is, you know, it's a turbocharger on top of a broker dealer's chassis, where you can invest money in different things that can take a broker dealer years to potentially, take on and add to their repertoire, when you can do it much quicker.
In fact, TAG was one of the first 50 pooled employer plans in the retirement plan space when they were rolled out a couple of years ago. We literally rolled ours out before Fidelity rolled theirs.
Yeah.
So to your point on being nimble, we've certainly experienced that.
You know, and OSJ is a loose word out there. There's, you know, good OSJs, there's bad OSJs, there's good financial advisors, there's, you know, bad financial advisors, and with every other thing, any other service out there that you can offer. Like, what are the aspects of a good one, and maybe one you want to stay away from?
Well, experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. And it's cheaper to rent it than it is to buy it. So, you know, this is a chance for your listeners to rent the experience from this podcast rather than going out and experiencing it themselves. Things that I would suggest and things that I've observed, I'm just going to kind of run through an anecdotal list. I will probably refer to my notes on this, but the first thing that I would say, and this is a big one, and I'm reminded, one of our advisors in Chicago, I'm located in Virginia, but we've got advisors in 33 states, and we're typically adding a state, a number of states every year. One of my advisors in Chicago years ago said, you know, Greg, I literally looked at 40 broker dealers. I looked at 40 broker dealers, and I can't believe that I chose the first OSJ that I was referred to. And he literally kicked himself. He wound up joining TAG. He's still with us today. He's got a great story. But the first thing I would say is, if you work with an OSJ, you know, it's one thing to join, it's another to leave. So if you get to the point where it's not working, or if your goals and aspirations change for whatever reason, how do you leave? And I would pay really close attention to this at the broker dealer level in terms of their guidelines for their OSJs, as well as the OSJs themselves. Our rule of thumb is, if you want to leave TAG, it's first of the month following a 30-day notice. It's that simple. Why would we want to work with a rep who doesn't want to be here? It confounds me to imagine why any branch manager would be controlling or restrictive or difficult. You know, at the end of the day, if you're not putting value in the window, if you're not delivering what you promised or what the advisor needs, then, the strongest grip is an open hand, and certainly we abide by that principle. We'll put it in writing for anybody that needs it, but generally we don't need to put it in writing because it's so experiential. We just let 2 advisors go at the end of December that wanted to leave for a couple of different reasons. And there was no acrimony. We just said, by being open-handed, we win a lot more than we lose, and the value that we provide, we feel like speaks for itself. So first thing, big thing I would make sure of is.
So Greg, let me stop you right there just to make sure advisors understand that. If you went to tag inside of Cambridge and it didn't work out, you have the ability to open up your own branch without repapering your clients. It's a seamless breakup process. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
In Cambridge has a broad set of guidelines, but at the end of the day, if you were to join tag inside of Cambridge and you said, hey, we're doing enough production, we'd like to go direct, or we've got a succession situation that makes sense with another OSJ, first of the month following a 30-day waiting period. Awesome. Again, I grew up appreciating independence. We put that in the window and we subscribe to it. And the impact on that is that, again, it served us very well in terms of being open-handed of that nature. And it's a really important question. The second thing I would add to that is pay attention whether the OSJ, whether it's a small, large, medium, whatever, whether they're doing personal production. I don't do any personal production. I'm totally focused on the interest of our advisors. We have a management team call with our management team every morning at 8:45. We have an executive call every day at 4:30. We are totally focused on the interest of our advisors. And to that end, we have an advisor call every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern. We typically have 120 to 140 advisors that get on that call electively to find out how to work more easily with Cambridge, how to grow and protect their practice. And we have sponsors on talking about what's new in their toolkit. So that, if you took a survey, our 400 advisors would say that's the most important, meaningful, ongoing component that they get from the relationship. We're actually doing a segment on that call next week on how to get a greater market share of client assets, particularly with new clients. You get a rollover of a 401k. How do you collect the rest of those assets? So that's going to be the topic on next week's call.
Awesome. Yeah, I think those are really good questions to ask. I think there, are OSJs out there that are very much, just using themselves as an aggregator to maximize payout and not offer a lot of services on top of that. And then I think there's also, OSJs like yours that are investing back in the business and are, really trying to help their financial advisors while still giving them a really, really good payout.
We don't narrow the sidelines or the goalposts. You work within the same framework that you would anywhere else within Cambridge. Again, in my view, we just amplify the experience. We don't do what Cambridge does. You're still going to do your business with Cambridge, but if there's a problem in a transaction, you have access to your OSJ, who not only provides trade review and email review and those types of things. Your OSJ also is going to be your first point of contact for anything that needs to be escalated. So literally on our calls every morning at 8:45, we're going around the horn to see if there's anything that needs to be focused on, anything that needs to be escalated, and anything that we need to be paying attention to for the benefit of our advisors. And I don't know many of our peers that literally are blocking and tackling at that level on a daily basis for the benefit of their advisors. Operational support, transition support, those would be two things that I would look for. What do I get if I do need something that needs to be escalated? And then the ancillary services that I described, like investment management, qualified plans, virtual administrative support, fixed insurance products. And right now we're working on financial planning. The other thing I'll mention, and I've just coined this in the last month, but it's tag M&A. And that's the area. We have a digital continuity plan for the benefit of our advisors. We have a straight formula where their beneficiaries or them, if they're disabled, can get paid in the event of something untoward happening. And we've got probably 100 of those in place, and literally right now they're coming in every week.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's great. We've mentioned it a few times in this call, but I think it's important to know that, like, utilizing an OSJ, you're not replacing any of the tools and resources at the broker dealer. This is just an additional layer of tools and support. You can utilize everything at Cambridge or any other broker dealer that you're with on top of everything that you had. And you answered it right in the beginning. I don't see a downside.
Yeah. And I'll just comment on that last point. With 400 advisors, many of whom are interested in buying practices, we are literally making markets. Most of my free time, if you will, my bandwidth that isn't otherwise occupied, is going into that. I'm literally having a call every day, either helping 2 advisors within our branch put a deal together. I've worked on one already this week in Pittsburgh. I worked on another one in Minnesota. We were directly involved in acquisitions in February of last year, May of last year, 3 at the end of August, and 1 November 1. So that is a very active area for us, largely because we've got people in this group that want to buy, and we've got other advisors that want to sell. So I've probably at this point been involved in 60 to 70 transactions, and it's become a core competency for us as a group, just because there has been so much activity there.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing the same thing on our side. Like, more than 40% of my conversations now have some sort of M&A component to it. It's an interesting time, to say the least.
It is. I agree.
Well, Greg, you've been amazingly helpful. I really appreciate the time. I think you gave a really solid just explanation of what can be expected, plugging into an OSJ and just giving awareness to the opportunity out there. I really, really appreciate it. To anybody listening, as I said before, more optionality than ever in the independent broker dealer space amongst OSJs as well. If you have any questions, my contact information is all over YouTube. It's all my YouTube page. It's all over my podcast page. And Greg, if anyone wants to reach out to you, where can they find you?
LinkedIn would be a great source. You can look at the webpage on LinkedIn for Tag Advisors, or you can connect with me directly on LinkedIn. Those would be 2 great starting points. The other thing, this isn't about Cambridge. It's not about Tag. The other thing I'll just say for the listeners, being in the position that we're in, I get the chance to work with a lot of industry professionals and a lot of third-party recruiters. And these guys, Corey, the peers that he works with within Bridgemark, they're the best of the best. And certainly you serve yourself well by relying on them to help navigate the decisions that you've got to make.
I appreciate that, Greg. It means the world. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. I just wouldn't say it.
Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a great day, and I hope everyone got a bunch of value out of this. Thanks so much.
My pleasure, Corey. Thank you.
No problem.
Bye now.